Welcome to the Jamal Bryant Let's Be Clear podcast, where I believe that you are going to be equipped and empowered to radically change your life. My guest today is my brother, my friend, and a futurist forward thinker on the economy of our community. You're going to need a notepad, a calculator, and put in your earbuds so that you don't miss anything that is said or spoken. I've known this amazing man for, it's hard for me to say out loud, 25 years. But I'm excited about how it is that he is charting a path for our people that is not just inspiration, but information. John Hope Bryant, thank you for hanging out with me today.
I'm honored, Reverend, but I don't know what you're thinking of me. You told me to be here.
Yeah,
so
but you answered.
I'm just doing what you told me.
Thank you. You are everywhere between Beirut, Dubai, and the Middle East all in one weekend. I was first introduced to you and your brilliance in the rebuilding of LA after the Rodney King uprising. I was there speaking for our mutual friend and mentor, Pastor Chip Merrick, at the First AME Church.
Yes.
And he pointed you out, who was sitting in the pew that day, and said, this young man is changing the game. Everything that I had seen around civil rights was really mobilized around marches and around speeches and reactionary. I had not seen from my generation somebody who was really plotting forward on how it is that we don't do it symbolically, but substantively in really addressing the inequity of the economy. Dr. King, when he was killed, was pulling together the Poor People's Campaign and said that the next step after civil rights was civil rights. And that baton had really been swinging in the pendulum for 45 years. I want you to really talk about what civil rights means to us at this ticket to watch in 2024.
And thank you. Just like you have to slow down to say civil rights, to say it properly, otherwise it sounds like something else. We need to slow down as a group of people and understand, as Malcolm X said, we've been bamboozled, we've been tricked, we've been fooled. We're looking for love in all the wrong places. We're looking at focusing on getting that bag, getting that money, getting that dollar, getting that moolah, when in reality, we're looking at the wrong target. You shouldn't be focusing on making money. You should be focusing on building wealth, and you build wealth in your sleep. But let me back up and say to you, when I met you first, you were your father's son.
Yeah.
That's how you were lovingly, respectfully introduced. So much regard for your dad.
Thank you.
And now you are your daughter's father.
Wow.
Because I've seen how you raise your daughters. I've seen the
you.
love you pour into your daughters. And you do it all very, very well. You do that great. You leave here, you go to special occasions, you show up for them, you show out in the sense of being a man and being a role model. And for that, you should be very proud.
Thank you.
One of your greatest achievements. And you got many, many, many great achievements. I think we're sitting in a moment in history. But history does not feel historic when you're sitting in it.
Wow.
It just feels like another day.
Right.
As you well know, you're a student of history. Dr. King walked around Atlanta for 13 years. When he wasn't traveling, he was going to parent-teacher night. He was going to Bible study. He was going to the grocery store.
Right.
He did normal stuff. He did staff meetings. He'd sit in his office right at where near Ebenezer is, across the street. And many times, I'm sure he wondered, as he traveled 6 million air miles, 2,600 speeches, 13 years, he wondered, am I having any impact at all? And he gave that I Have a Dream speech more than 100 times before the March on Washington. But he was absolutely dogged about this trifecta of priorities. I want to redeem the soul of America from the triple evils of war, racism, and poverty.
Yeah.
And he and my mentor, our friend, Ambassador Andrew Young, who is the last living senior lieutenant of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right down the street, thank God we can say right now from where we are. He and Ambassador Young and a lot of other heroes and sheroes helped to change the game for basic human dignity, civil rights, a righteous stand against the war, that we were fighting on our behalf. Some of us fighting on our behalf, but couldn't get respect when we got back ourselves. He said, I don't know one Viet Cong has done anything bad to black people, but we can't seem to love each other here, paraphrasing. And then, of course, he pivoted toward poverty, as you mentioned. Right. And because he was a liberal Southern pastor, rightly so, understandably so, he talked about the redistribution of wealth. Well, you start talking about redistributing the top 3% of wealth, and you don't live very long. And he didn't make it to his first march.
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about today is not the redistribution of wealth, but the creation of wealth. The color in the 60s was black and white. The color up until now has been red and blue. I think the new color is green. And I think it's always been green. Yeah. I think slavery was about money, about economics. Nobody's going halfway around the world to drag you here because they don't like you. In fact, the concept that we were dumb and stupid is ridiculous. We were agricultural geniuses.
Yes.
And what they needed was experts in the land. How do you take dead land and bring it back to life? How do you nurture it back to life? Well, we worked in that arid, that direct sunlight, and we brought that land back to life time and time again. And we were geniuses of the land in an agricultural economy.
Right.
And so we built this country really for free. And we couldn't create assets because we were assets. We were bought, sold, traded, insured, underwritten. In fact, the first millionaire in America in New York City financed the import and export of cotton. 57% of our economy in the 1850s was the whole GDP was cotton-based, slavery.
You're right.
Well, he was a financier for cotton. So indirectly, the first millionaire in America came because of us. Wealthiest city in the world in the 1840s was Natchez, Mississippi. In the world.
Wow.
Natchez,
I didn't know that.
In the world. Yeah. There's so many vignettes when you start getting the emotion out of this and you just start following the money and following the data. Yeah. You begin to understand that the only thing wrong with us is what we don't know that we don't know, but we think we know. And no one ever taught us, never gave us the memo on free enterprise economics and opportunity, capitalism, finance. When the rules are published, the playing field is level, faith, public service, the arts, professional sports. We kill it. We don't just excel. We absolutely control the field.
Right.
We're excellent when we apply ourselves. Yeah. No one gave us this memo. And when they tried to at the Freedmen's Bank of 1865, charted to teach freed slaves about money, Lincoln was assassinated. He did that and he promised blacks the right to vote. Booth said that'll be the last speech you give.
Wow.
That was 100 years before they killed Dr. King. Same month, April 1865. Killed Dr. King, April 1968. So what gives me hope, actually, is that it's not like we tried this thing and we screwed it up.
Yeah.
We never tried this thing. And so we've really been doing so much with so little for so long, we almost can do anything with nothing. And in a blind town, a one-eyed man's king, when you don't know better, you can't do better. We've been doing pretty good, half blind. I mean, we've been excelling and killing in the game with no instruction manual, going 150 miles an hour with no instruction manual. That's why I love you got to slow it down and say silver rights. We have to slow this thing down. I race cars, it's my sport, and smooth is fast. The smoother you are, the faster you go. It's not about the speed. It's about the excellence. Sometimes you got to get, I love just sitting in quiet. This is a faith statement now.
Yeah.
I think that to be enlightened is nothing more than to find God's will, God's, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but to find God's space, place, to sit and to find the light and to sit down in it. Calm yourself, be present, and be enlightened. Let the light shine over you. Yeah. And I think that this is that moment. This is the third reconstruction. First was freedom. Second was civil rights, access. This one's opportunity for all. And as irony would have it, America literally cannot go forward without taking her black and brown brothers and sisters.
That's true.
With it. Like, mathematically, it's impossible for us to continue to be the leading economy in the world without empowering all of God's children. Because 92% of Americans in 1950 was, sorry, I got it the other way around. In 1952, 90% of Americans were white. Well, so you could sort of blow us off, black,
right.
Empowerment and social justice. We'll get around to it. Not anymore. Almost half of America today is black and brown. You throw poor whites into that, who are now riding at the ballot box, I might add, following the former president, because they're frustrated that nobody helped them out 70 years ago when the Industrial Revolution failed. And by the way, Reverend Bryant, if you in your audience want to confirm, absolutely confirm, that the game has moved on than just about race. Yes, it's of course about race.
Yes.
Again, look at who's following, the biggest block following the former president, whose name I will not mention.
Yes.
Are poor whites. Now, if race was the only issue,
right.
there'd be nobody following him in that regard, because everybody would be rich white.
Yeah.
But they didn't get the memo either. Native American Indians didn't get the memo either. But tell you, Black Ghanaians got the memo. Black Nigerians got the memo. All the blacks from the 70 Caribbean nations got the memo. I mean, we were denied the very framework of success in this country. We live in a capitalist democracy, but no one taught us capitalism.
Wow. Wow.
And so I know this is going to be very unpopular when I say this, but I really don't care. I really think that black folks it's going to be really popular at this timing, but it just would underscore I really don't care. I think black folks need a black Jewish business plan.
I agree.
Hello.
I agree.
It's a radical movement of common sense.
Full stop.
For all the challenges that my Jewish brothers and sisters face today, they can say, I don't care. Because they own enough to say we own everything.
A Jewish rabbi said something to me years ago, John, that completely messed me up. I was living in Baltimore at the time, and a rabbi said to me, stop asking your people to tithe. I said, what did you say? He said, stop asking your people to tithe. I said, I can't do that. How am I going to do the function of the church and missions and outreach? John, he said, you cannot ask your church to tithe if you've never taught them how to budget.
Woo! Talk to me.
He said you can't ask people for 10%.
Wow.
And they can't show you where the 90 is.
That's deep.
He said, stop tithing and start teaching budget.
That's right.
I wanted to ask you, because you do so much in the space of economic development.
But Reverend, before you say that, I got to answer your question.
Yes.
What is it civil rights about? It's about creating the first and only sustainable black economic infrastructure, financial and economic infrastructure in our history. That's what civil rights in the Third Reconstruction to a large degree is about. I'm not excluding anybody, but I'm hyper-focusing on an economic system. So when they knocked off Dr. King, the movement was over.
Yes.
He was a mouthpiece, he was a message, he was a messenger, he was a movement, he was money, he was everything. We got to create a situation that if somebody takes you out, me out, Bishop, whoever, Mr. Jakes, whoever it is, it's embedded in a flywheel called a business plan.
Yes.
And you can't stop it, and it's unstoppable because it's actually in everybody's enlightened self-interest at that point for it to continue to prosper. If we're helping to create GDP in this country, gross domestic product.
Yes.
When black people succeed, even racist white people win because the tide rises, boat rises on top of the tide, on top of the ocean. So I just want to make sure I answered your question of what this thing is. It's a radical movement of common sense. The color's green. I like math because it doesn't have an opinion.
Wow.
Back to your question.
No, that's great. And I think part of your success and why it is such, in the words of our dear friend Bishop, it is such disruptive thinking, is because you are pushing a principle and not a personality. At the end of the day, it's not John Hope Bryant T-shirts.
I hope not.
How do we get everybody in line with it. And I wanted to do really a crash course because I found something out. I'm still stuck on this Black Jewish blueprint. In so much as, John, there is not one Jewish synagogue in America, not one. Deacons, if you all are listening, turn this up. Preachers, if you are listening, turn this up. Choir members, turn this up. There's not one Jewish synagogue in America with a mortgage.
Wow.
Last year, 4,317 Black churches foreclosed. Not because they ain't had the Holy Ghost, not because they didn't have prayer meeting, but they have no sustainable business or financial model. Yeah. I wanted to ask you if I could just turn on a megaphone. The billions of dollars that Black churches amass in a year. If we pull all of these pastors, all of the denominations together, it says our speaker today, John Hope Bryant, he has a word to the Black church. What would you say singularly is the very first thing, if we making you the Archbishop, you are now the Pope, you're now the Pope. What would you have every Black church do starting this Sunday?
Knock it off.
Tell me, what does that mean?
Oh man, we just trading in all kind of silliness that don't matter. We're arranging the deck chairs of the Titanic. It reminds me of Reverend Jackson told me, Jesse Jackson told me a story one day. He said there was two hobos on a train. And because they hadn't paid, both hobos got kicked off the train. And the hobos were very upset of being kicked off the train.
Yes.
Irrespective of the fact they hadn't paid their fare. They were very upset. And one hobo said, you know, Jack, I think I'm so upset with this train network, I think I'm going to buy the whole train system. And the other hobo said, well, John, I'm so upset, I'm going to sell it to you. This ridiculousness. Right. We need to knock it off. We're looking for love in all the wrong places. We're playing loud music in cars we don't own. We're going to places that don't want us with money, spending money we don't have on things that don't matter. Right. Profiling and shining and flashing and ego tripping and arguing with each other and cutting each other up about. And what does all this come from? It comes from low self-esteem. We're depressed. 70% of Black America before COVID, in my opinion, clinically undiagnosed depressed. And it makes perfect sense because for 270 years, you were told you ain't nothing. Right. Your mama ain't nothing. That's why we sold her off. Your kids ain't nothing. That's why we sold them off. You can't protect your child. Your wife, I just abused her right in front of you and held you down, and you couldn't do anything to help her. Your self-esteem is all of that. Your whole spirituality is drained right out of you because I could use you as machinery. Wow. And we didn't educate you because we don't want you doing critical thinking, right? Yes. We don't want you to read a book because we don't want you to actually figure out that we actually using you for economic purposes. We don't want you to go travel because God forbid you see this freedom somewhere. Right. Blacks and whites used to get along with each other. In the 1600s, the first people to run away indentured service were Blacks and whites together. And when they found them, they said, my God, we have a problem. They're getting along. And they said, Joe, talking to the headmaster, the master, we can't do this because we can have a race riot. We cannot have a class riot because we're the class. So they then told the white people, you're white like us. First creation of the word white in a racial context in a world 5 billion years old with organism life of 4 billion years old. As you know, human life, Neanderthals, couple 100 million years old, modern life, 60,000, 90,000 years old. But the first use of the word white was in North America in the 1600s, manufactured, a creative problem. And now you have Blacks and white folks mixing it up for 400 years, or a couple hundred years, at least, on silliness, ridiculousness. And now once we became free, our minds weren't. And so because we never solved the self-esteem problem, so if I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not going to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. And here's the worst one. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'll make your life a living hell. So whatever goes around comes around. Now, I'm not talking about poor financially here. Just came from Africa. You travel there all the time. Our brothers and sisters in Africa have high self-esteem and low levels of confidence. I'm generalizing. Yes. They have high self-esteem because their mother and father are at home and they see doctors and lawyers who look like them. And so they have a normal system and they have high self-esteem, but they have low confidence because their skills have not been tested in a leading market economy. Wow. We have the opposite problem. We have high confidence and low self-esteem.
Wow.
We have succeeded in the largest market economy on the planet in spite of all of our challenges, but we have never fixed the self-esteem problem, which is why we cut each other up. Which is why somebody's listening to this right now going, who does he think he is? Why is he talking like that?
Right.
I'm talking like this because I want to help you. What is the point? Who cares who I am?
Right.
All you should be saying is, Quincy Jones, how'd you get so smart? I'm nosy as hell. I want to know everything about everything. God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth, so I listen twice as much as I talk. Let me see what I can learn. That brother sounds like he's doing something. How could there not be anything from this conversation but 100% positive? I don't want nothing from you. You're not selling it to them. You're
Right.
giving them content.
Right.
But somebody is player hating, you or me, as they're listening to this. That's low self-esteem. That's self-hate. That's depression. So the first thing we got to do is have to knock it off, start having honest conversations. Because black folks come to church because it's the therapist that is socially acceptable. It's a psychologist that's socially acceptable. Oh, I don't want to go to a straight. Somebody might think I'm crazy. If you black in America and don't think you crazy, you are crazy.
Right.
Then once we get that, because so somebody said, well, John, how can you say we're depressed? Okay, 2 things. A $1.6 trillion consumer spending force, give or take, black America, bigger than most nations, that don't own anything. 41, our assets are on our, I can't say this because it's church, but okay, people will figure that out.
Right.
So we consume, but we don't own. 41 to 43% of home ownership is black, compared to our white counterparts, where it's 75% home ownership. And the number one way you build wealth in America is home ownership.
Right.
But we own that Macy's card, we own that Neiman Marcus card, which charging you 26, 27, 30% interest rate if you read the fine print.
Right.
I'm not telling you not to shop. I'm telling you that the dictionary says that only place where success comes before the word work is the dictionary, because it's alphabetical. Every place else, you got to do the work first. Right. The work says we have to do some basic things. Let's buy a home. Let's get higher educated in things that actually produce a gainful income for the future, like computing. Make sure we got your financial literacy course. There's 2 things everybody needs to have, is a financial literacy course and a computing course. AI is going to absolutely disrupt our world in the next 5 years. That's a whole nother podcast for another time. Then you got to become a homeowner, because the biggest business in the world is real estate. In the world is real estate. And real estate values, as you well know, because you're a real estate owner, and you make sure the church was too, real estate values have never gone down in the history of America. Now, they have dipped. They've gone up. There's been a recession. They've dipped. We sell, by the way, and then it corrects above the line every time, right? And so you need to buy a home. You need to own a business. So you're writing checks, not just cashing them. Civil rights was cashing checks. Can I get this job? Can I get this career somewhere? But now we need to start becoming owners of our destiny. That's that Jewish black business plan I talked about, and starting writing those checks as business owners. That's why we created 400,000 black businesses since George Floyd's murder. Amazing. With the 1MBB initiative, for which you are a partner. There's only 3.1 million black businesses in America. So we've created, nurtured, supported, advanced, 12% of those using technology. Everyone gets a Shopify account as an example of that for free. Right. About a $25,000 package of in-kind services and a lot of coaching and counseling, an accountant, and a business. So I think the church is the biggest and most important megaphone and mechanism, and is the only true infrastructure that we have in the black community, even more so than HBCUs, because that's a targeted population. You got to go and qualify to go there and pay while you're there. Anybody can go to a church and should. So I think, I'm not criticizing the church here. I'm critiquing it. I'm saying I expect better, because you are, not you and the collective you, is literally our last and best hope for infrastructure plugins. Financial literacy for all. Home ownership for all. Careers for all. Wealth creation for all. And then tithing for all. All right? But there's 5 pillars of success. As much education you can shove down your throat. Understanding the math of the matter. markets, money, things we were talking about, financial literacy, family structure and resiliency, self-esteem and confidence, role models and environment. Oddly enough, we were denied all 5 things in this country. If you don't have 3 of those things, forget about it. If you have 4 of those things, you kill it. By the way, listeners, I don't care which 4 they are. Doubt what I'm saying. Right. Take 4 of 5 of those things. No, take 3 of the 5 of those things and tell me you won't be successful. Education, massive. Financial literacy, family structure and resiliency, self-esteem and confidence. You have self-esteem. Your parents told you they loved you and you believe it, and it's evident. Role models and environment. We model what we see. And if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. Easy. If you do 3 of those things, I don't care which 3, you will thrive. You do 4 of those things and you will kill it.
I love it.
So we need to simplify the business plan and magnify the execution and the impact. We got to do more than be a PhD. We got to be a PhD too. If 20% of every population, of every church population, would buy a house to live in 2 more to rent. I don't mean fancy ones. I mean right there in the hood. Right. Buy it, rehab it, and rent it. Problem solved.
Say that again. Say that again. If every person...
No, I'm making this easy.
20%. Yes.
I'll take 10%. But if you want to not just succeed, but overwhelmingly succeed, because Dr. King only had 20% of the Black community support at his height and 20% of the white community support at his height, and half of that was Jewish. So if you take the highest mark, you take 20%, by the way, the book, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell, University of Illinois study proved that at 5% positive role models, every community stabilizes. So let's take this down to where a baby can understand it. Give me 5%. Give me 8, 10%. Let's say that 5 to 10% of every congregation.
Well, the church can easily know that 10%. They know that 10%.
They know that that's their special forces team.
We can stick on that 10%.
And you take that group.
Yes.
And you say, I want everybody within the next 2 years to own a home. Don't talk to me about interest rates. Interest rates were 15% in the 1980s, right? They were 12 to 18%. Interest will never be 2 to 3%. In life, again, it was an aberration. It was the Federal Reserve was trying to keep the economy from failing in 2008. It was free money and it's not coming back. 5% is pretty good. Buy a house. We'll help you get into the house in an affordable way. Community Reinvestment Act, down payment assistance, earned income tax credit. We can find a way to get you in the house in an affordable way. Buy a house. Use the equity from the first house.
Yes.
Go find a neighborhood house, the worst house on the best block in the hood. Buy it. Rehab it, use minority talent if you can, contractors, and rent it. And don't sell. And do that twice. If you do that, you will create jobs in your community, you'll create a tax base in your community, you'll create home ownership in your community, and you will create $1 million net worth for that family. Each of those families. And generational wealth.
I agree.
And create a will, by the way.
One of the wealthiest.
So Pookie and them don't take your house.
Yes, please. 2 of the wealthiest commodities in the world is McDonald's, who owns real estate all over the world.
They are a real estate business.
Yes, Beijing to
not a food business.
Lagos. And the second is the Catholic Church. One of the things that we talk about in thinking about the Black church, we think about the inner city churches. But the largest density of Black churches is in rural areas that are sitting on land that they have not developed. And I think that we've got to really look at a much larger space on the Black churches, not just Brooklyn and Chicago and Houston, but it's in Salisbury, Maryland. It's in Chesapeake, Virginia. Those churches really are sitting on assets that they really need to amplify. I heard you say something the other day that I wanted you to unpack on gentrification. Because what I am finding is a lot of the people who are a part, John, of these inner city churches no longer live in the area where the church is. Right. They grew up and grew out. Right. And so they come back into town as tourists on Sundays. I want you to repeat what it is that you said about gentrification and really where the church really has a role to play in that.
Well, I run my mouth so much, I don't know exactly what I said, but if I think what you're referring to is that, we keep talking about gentrification as if it's a bad thing. Gentrification is a good thing. The dictionary definition of gentrification is literally a movement to middle-class values. You want a move, that's what the rabbi was telling you. You want people who have assets or not just on there so that they have something to give back and know how to budget and so on and so forth. And so you just want that to be inclusive gentrification. You want it to look like you, to include you. But the minute you see white kids, 22 years old, with flip-flops and T-shirts on a bicycle driving through your neighborhood, that's not a tourist, right? They own something in your neighborhood, and don't hate on them. They're not the Klan coming in with fire torches and with hoods on. They didn't run nobody out. In order for them to buy, somebody had to sell. Right. Don't hate on them. Applaud them for being intelligent, right? Because what is inner city? An inner city in France is called Paris. Right. An inner city in the UK is called London. Right. An inner city in Turkey is called Istanbul. An inner city in Japan is called Tokyo. This is centrally located, valuable real estate. They put us in it to penalize us as other folks move to the suburbs. Right. In the middle of the 20th century, they didn't want to be around us. They created their own neighborhoods out wherever. That didn't work. Not crime. Traffic got horrible. They don't want to drive an hour. By the way, offices are coming back. Right. You heard it here. People said after 9/11, New York will never come back. You can't. You walk down the street in New York, little kid, 3 years old, kicking you in the knees. You can't. It's somebody pushing you off the stair. They said DC wasn't coming back. Offices will come back. It's going to take a minute. So the traffic's coming back. We're already seeing it, by the way.
Oh yes.
But these inner cities are 5 minutes from jobs, 5 minutes from transportation, 5 minutes from infrastructure downtown. This is invaluable real estate, and we should own some of it. Now, let me go back. Let me tie these two things together, because whether it's urban, black and brown, or rural, black and brown, or poor white, what we found with data, I love data. We had Experian pull every zip code in America by credit score.
Wow.
I just did I had a hunch. My hunch was now more than correct. Like there's like a 1% margin of error, what I'm about to tell you. We literally have been looking for love in all the wrong places. The data is unimpeachable, and it says this. All of our problems, crime, murder, mayhem, drugs, depression, poverty, are in 500 credit score neighborhoods. And in that neighborhood, by the way, black and brown urban or white poor, here's what you see. A check casher, target marketing, next to a payday loan lender. Yeah. Next to a rent-to-own store. Next to a title lending store. Next to a pawn shop. Next to a liquor store, if I didn't say it already. Yeah. You guys starting to get a visual? And down the street is the church. That's your neighborhood psychologist. That's the only positive thing in this story, trying to make sure you don't go cray-cray once a week. Black folks riot on the streets. My poor white friends riot at the ballot box.
Wow.
You live to 61 years old in a 580 credit score neighborhood. What is the age for Social Security? Am I talking to myself?
No, not at all.
65. By the way, I'm not saying some communities. On average, if you live in a 500 credit score neighborhood, you live to 61. Actually, it's 580. It's worse as you get further down. If you live in a 700 credit score neighborhood of any race, which is typically 15 minutes away, you live to 81. It's a 20-minute delta. I'm sorry, a 20-year loss of life because of your credit score and your zip code. And all the other numbers follow. 26% home ownership rate to 40% home ownership rate in a 580 credit score neighborhood. 75% plus in a 700 credit score neighborhood. The violent crimes per 1,000 off the chain in the 580 credit score neighborhood, almost non-existent in the 700 credit score neighborhood. The high school equivalency, again, this is completely consistent. It's 61 to 65% in a 580 credit score neighborhood. We don't emphasize education. Right. In the 700 credit score neighborhood, it's 96%, which means they're going on to higher education. The numbers, you just keep on and on and on. The data is unimpeachable. If you just get your credit, you want to change America? You want to change our neighborhoods?
Yeah.
Everybody listen to this. Create a block club and commit that within, I'm going to make it easy, within 2 years, then you can do it in a year. Everybody in my neighborhood on my blocks and have a 700 credit score. Problem solved. Because 700 credit score neighborhoods don't riot, they go shopping.
Wow.
There's never been a riot in a 700 credit score neighborhood that was neighborhood located in the history of America. I don't mean somebody ran through. Right. I'm talking about people who live there.
Right.
Because they're shareholders, they're stock owners, they're real estate owners. You're not burning up your own stuff. Nobody washes a rental car.
Right.
So literally, the Malcolm X quote comes again. We've been bamboozled. We've been tricked. We've been fooled. And now you have fools talking. I'm not talking about the church, and I'm talking in general. You have fools talking like experts. You have people running around on Instagram talking about their financial influencers. Right. Now, wait a minute. What business did you build?
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm just asking a question. How many employees do you have? What's your payroll? Okay, that's too complicated. Do you own a home? Your own home, or are you renting?
Right.
Okay, I see you got a fancy car. Did you lease that or do you own it? And is that your only asset? Like, what's your qualification to be a financial influencer? Because you're selling books and tapes. You're selling books and tapes to tell other people how to be successful, and that's how you're successful. See, we're looking for love in all the wrong places. Go to somebody who's an expert. I can come and talk to you about faith because that's what you do.
Yes.
I was sitting down with T.I., Killer Mike, all friends of ours, billionaire Tony Ressler, 350th richest man in the world, wealthiest, nice guy, owns the Atlanta Hawks. In the audience, Ambassador Andrew Young, that's one on stage. In the audience was Bishop T.D. Jakes. And I'm riffing about something. And T.I., who loves to mess with me, I said, well, this person, I'll make this easy. It was about home ownership, but I said, he was talking about banking. Oh, the bank, why should I put my money there? I keep all this money there. They don't help me. I said, because you know the teller. You're T.I., but you know the bank. I don't even know your business and I know your business. Let me guess. You know who the branch manager is. You know who the teller is. Maybe you know the vice president in the area. Who's the CFO? Who's the CEO of the bank?
Right, not the branch.
No. That's why you're not getting nowhere with the bank, because it's relationship capital. The teller can't do nothing for you.
Right.
The branch manager can't do nothing for you. I said, let me ask you something. So I said, you want to give me a lecture about money. When I went to the studio, you talked to me about publishing rights, licensing rights. You talked all this terminology. I knew not. I shut up and I listened. When I go to Faith, I come to Reverend Bryant. I go to Bishop Jakes. I go to Reverend Cecil Chip Murray. I shut up and I listen. I want to talk about civil rights, social justice. I go to Ambassador Andrew Young. I go to Bernice A. King. I shut up and I listen. I want to talk about wealth creation at a massive level. I go to Tony Ressler and I shut up and I listen. When I talk to you about money and banking and finance, shut up and listen. We are looking for love. Look, the beautiful part about this conversation, it's not complicated.
Yeah, but our people are dying of the lack of knowledge. John, when you look at, I think it's 88% of black people, 88% of black people don't own a singular piece of stock.
Oh, no, it's worse than that. Let me tell you, here's a shock for you.
Yeah.
You need to pray on this one. If we do nothing but what we're doing right now, Black America, somebody sitting there listening, this will solve itself. John, I don't need to worry about this. By the way, what I'm about to tell you is before AI hits us, before artificial intelligence rockets our whole economy, before that, okay. If we do nothing, Black America, but what we're doing, by 2052, Black America is scheduled to have a net worth of 0.
Say that again slower. Say that again slower. Somebody just crashed into the median of the highway.
There's 45 million black people, African Americans. If we do nothing but what we're doing right now, the same trajectory, all of us, not poor people, all of us, the scheduled net worth of the Black community in a capitalist democracy country, which is the largest economy on the planet, is scheduled to be 0. Now, I want, while we're flossing here, all of us, I want you to think about this one. Because I put on Twitter I came back from Africa, so proud. We need to be to Africa what Jews are to Israel, a resource. And then all these responses back, I don't want to go to Africa. What am I doing in Africa? All those poor people in Africa. You ignorant. Look, there are right now 200 plus companies on the continent of Africa with $1 billion of annual revenue run by Black people.
200.
Plus, in 54 countries on the African continent, there are more than 200 Black African companies with $1 billion of annual revenue. Now, I didn't even say net worth. Now, we've got some brothers that have a net worth. Unfortunately, we can name them. I mean, most of them are entertainment, sports. By the way, they went into business, LeBron, all that kind of stuff. My man Don Peoples, a real estate guy, he's $1 billion net worth. But it's just so bad, we can name them. There's so few of them, right? But that doesn't mean you have $1 billion in annual revenue. Revenue means you have a company, a platform with employees and contracts and vendors and offices and infrastructure. I said something radical when Obama was president, and I served Obama as an advisor. And people thought I was hating on Obama. I said, well, I'm proud that we have a Black president. God bless him, he's brilliant. No buts. Right. And it would be more important to have a Black Bill Gates than a Black president. Because 88% of all jobs in America come from the private sector. And the government gets its revenue from us.
Right.
So we need people who can produce jobs and contracts and opportunities at scale. So Africa's moving in the right direction, we're moving in the wrong, even though we're the most endowed, successful group of Black people on the planet.
Yes.
Today, we're literally lighting ourselves on fire. We're literally turning away from the light.
While dousing ourselves in gasoline.
In broad daylight.
Yeah. Yes.
So people say, why are you so exercised? Because the house is on fire.
Yeah.
And I can see it. Yeah. And we are brilliant. This is an intentional campaign to distract us. Ambassador Andrew Young said this: to live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the very definition of slavery.
Wow. Wow. Ambassador, if you happen to listen to this, I'm still in that wholesale. There are people who are listening, they get overwhelmed with this whole area of fiscal responsibility and financial literacy. They are somewhere hovering between 500 and 575 in the credit score.
I've been there. I was homeless.
Yes.
I had a 400 credit score. Tore from the floor up.
What
so poor I couldn't pay attention. Yeah. So poor I couldn't afford the OR, which is the PO.
What is the first thing?
Knock it off.
Yeah, they
have a conversation. Sit at home.
Yes.
The lights don't come on by themselves, kids. Yes. Sit your rear end down. I'm at church. The rent don't pay itself. When you get up in the morning, I'll make this easy. There's a financial transaction. You can't brush your teeth. That's not a government-issued toothbrush. But when you go to sleep, the pillow's not government-issued. The sheets aren't government-issued. There's nothing in your house that's government-issued. Everything's a financial transaction. Everything in your life is economics. I say when you meet a girl at the club, or you meet a dude at the club, she's fine, or he's handsome. What's your credit score? And I'm only half joking, because that's your life partner.
Right.
That is your business partner for life. Who cares if she's cute or handsome? That's going to drop and sink and sunk. And in 20 years, it won't look the way it did. Is she dumb? Is he stupid? Do you know, originally, marriage was not a romantic situation. Go back 40 years ago, and married people lived in different rooms. Right. In fact, different castles. They married because for strategic interests.
Right.
I'm not saying don't marry somebody you love. I'm saying don't marry somebody just because you love them. I'm saying stop going to a strip club and saying, "Oh, I love you." You don't know her, and she don't know you.
Right.
So can we just knock it off?
Yeah.
Like we have been played. We're being played. And Black people don't like being played. I want us to behave and like when there's a vote and Black people, when depressed people vote, they vote twice basically. When we're proud and we're pissed. The first time Obama got elected, we elected him. I mean, we went to the polls.
Right.
Second election, we stayed at home because the thrill was gone, the party was over. We already seen a Black president.
Right.
Right. But then the former president, I won't mention his name because he offends me so much. And I'm not talking about Obama. The former president, everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
He pissed us off so bad. We said, oh, no. You didn't say that about me, my mama, my cousin.
Right.
We fired him.
Right.
We vote and we're proud and we're pissed. We have to get pissed again. This is the only time I want us to use our emotions. Right? The only time I want you to use your emotions is in this next election when you send somebody a very clear message that that this behavior is intolerable.
Yes.
Right? The former president. Because if he gets reelected, it's the end of democracy. You've heard it here.
Oh, yeah.
He's a clear and present danger to democracy. You heard it here. The second time I want you to be emotional, Reverend, is in a relationship. Because if 2 plus 2 does not equal 4, 6, or 8, what are you doing? If you're not better together, then what are you doing? If you pulling somebody, what are you doing? So let's make financial literacy simple. Here's a relationship. If you make the money, you can spend it. There's 4 rules. If you make the money, you can manage it. If you spend the money, you must manage it. But what you cannot do is just spend the money. Now, that wasn't hard. I need everybody to go and reevaluate your relationship because the number one cause of divorce
is money.
Yeah. The number one cause of domestic abuse is money. The number one cause for heart attacks is stress, and the number one cause for stress
is money.
You can't run this church without money.
My heart hurts.
So I want people to reevaluate their relationships, not emotionally, with those four tests. And if your mate and you don't meet that test, you need to have a conversation, non-emotional, non-accusatory, and say this dog don't hunt. We got to work this out because it don't make any sense. It's got to make sense. Make it and spend it. Make it and manage it. Spend it and manage it within a budget.
Yeah.
But you can't just spend it. You can't just spend it. And then there's some other rules, but I mean, I'm just trying to make this really
No, you're doing it.
Simple.
We called the church to do something a little bit different at New Birth here in Atlanta. Is over the Lenten season, most churches do a fast for Lent, 40 days leading up to Easter from Ash Wednesday. John, I said, well, let's do something different this year. Let's fast from spending.
Did somebody try to cut your door in the parking lot?
Listen, that's why you saw that security outside when you walked in, is that the radical idea that I am not going to spend my money, but see how it is that I'm going to invest it and save it, was welcome to Star Trek 2.0. This is from a completely different world.
Because we substituted money for self-esteem.
Whoo! The mic has just been dropped.
And we think credit cards are money. I mean, this is deep.
Yeah.
Back in our day, it used to be, oh, I can't be broke. I still have checks left. Remember we used to float the check? You write, y'all too young now. You write the check and you send it in the mail.
Right.
And sometimes you wouldn't put a stamp on it so they'd come back to you and you could tell them, oh, I don't know why that didn't get to you.
I forgot to put the date on.
Yeah. But today everything's digital, electronic. We think that a credit card's cash. We think it's money. No. That's debt. I have an American Express Black Card. My monthly bill is 6 figures. I have to pay that every month. It stuns me every time I do it. But the way I do it is, this is a reimbursement. This is an allocation to this LLC. This is an allocation for reimbursement from this speech I gave. This is an allocation to this tax account. By the time I get down to it, that 6-figure thing, I owe a very small portion personally, which I've already pre-budgeted. And by the way, I'm getting points on every charge, just so you clear on that.
Yes.
I'm getting reward points. I used to go to Maui. I go to Maui still, but I used to go to Maui every 6 months, free. The plane ticket was, people like, oh, that's John Hope Bryant sitting in first class for a free plane ticket. My plane ticket was free.
Right.
When I used to stay in a hotel before I used to rent place, my hotel was free because I had points.
Right.
Every time I stayed in a hotel, my rental car was free. I mean, people are somehow proud about spending money. I'm proud about saving it. You don't make money by you don't become wealthy by what you spend. It's what you keep. Not what you make, it's what you keep. You just gave them a gift. You're trying to get them to convert it from just having some cash to building some wealth. This is a radical mind shift. And see, you as a pastor, you can't do this. You need somebody like me to come in as an outsider and just lovingly curse everybody out.
Oh, listen, I'm bringing you for a 3-night revival to do that. You can't do that for one day. What you all have just heard, listen to me. I've never said this to you ever before. If you're listening, Linda, listen. You have got to listen to this twice. It's so many napalm bombs that have just been dropped in this last hour. I need you to listen to it. I need your children to listen to it, your friends to listen to it. And I need the people who owe you money to listen to it. This is an absolute game changer. John, I'm glad that you hung out with us on today. You make me better. You can say 2 last things.
No, I said this. I started by saying, first of all, I love you.
Love you more.
And black men need to be able to say that. Straight black men need to be able to say to straight black men, I love you, right? So I want people to know that I love you, and I love what you're doing, and I appreciate you. And I want you to be as successful as you can be. We need as many role models for you out there. We need people to follow your lead.
Thank you.
But I started this by saying we're sitting in a moment in history. I'm going to end it the same way, and I'm going to say something that I have not yet said in public. I have a book coming out, and I have a podcast that's actually launching today with Black Effect Network with Charlemagne and iHeart called John Hope Bryant on Money and Wealth. Every week I'll be trying to teach in these lessons. Yeah. But I have a book coming out in March and April called Financial Literacy for All. But my book next year that I'm writing already is called The Bridging of an Unhealed America. Now, I'm going to unpack the whole story mathematically through economics and money, not emotionally.
Right.
My whole job in this book is I want people to read the book without crossing their arms and getting defensive, right? So we can begin to solve some of these problems. But what I'm going to say now I've never said, which is part of this, why people will, I think, be forced to read the book. This is literally a Noah's Ark moment. We don't have time for this. I'll save it. But on COVID in 2020, what's the chances, really, that the largest economy on the planet that's never had a pandemic, that's never been shut down for a month, what's the chances that on the heels of this idiot being reelected to an unprecedented term because we vote our pocketbooks and we were doing financially well and he was popular, what's the chances that a pandemic would come in out of the blue that the world hasn't seen since the Spanish flu 125 years ago, that stops the entire economy, keeps him from being reelected, whoever him happens to be.
Right.
Right? And then you have George Floyd, which, by the way, would not have been noticed if we were not all at home watching the news at the same time.
Yeah.
White people, black people, rich people, poor people, college students, children, everybody watching the news when we saw a public lynching for 8 minutes. And everybody agreed. Racists agreed. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Here comes a 40-year-old social justice reckoning of Black America. Never in the world have we seen $60 to $100 billion of private capital committed to social justice for Black people. Now we're on the road to screw this up.
Right.
Black people. We got to do another podcast on how we shooting ourselves in the foot on opportunities that are right in front of us, because right now the world is ours still, but some people are trying to stop that message. And then you have an attack on our capital. So that was so now the whole world stopped and we're resetting. And now we find out that in 1952, 90% of America was white, which means you could ignore social justice. But today, almost half of America is black and brown, not including the 25% of the poor whites who also need some attention, and our Native American Indian friends. Majority of minorities and people who have been left behind. And now, for the first time in history, within this generation, the largest group of people will be over 65. Now, you put all that together, and we're the largest economy on the planet. Who's going to produce the money? If we don't learn how, if my rich friends need my poor friends to do better, if only to stay rich. Even racists need black people to be successful. This Citigroup reported that that discrimination against blacks alone since the year 2000 to 2020, 20 years, cost the economy $16 trillion. Just 20 years. And if we knock it off, you can pick up another $1 trillion. So I'm talking to corporate America, and I'm talking to the government, I'm talking to economic interests and billionaires saying, don't do me a favor. I'm not asking you for charity. I'm not asking you for a handout. I'm telling you it's in your enlightened self-interest to support those at the bottom of the pyramid and give them the tools they need to be successful. Financial literacy is a civil rights issue of this generation because, here's the point I've never said before, there are not enough college-educated, successful white men to drive the economy for the next 30 years. That's the drop the mic. It doesn't exist. It's impossible. It's mathematically, for the first time in U.S. history, it's mathematically impossible. Literally, in order for this dream to continue, all of us have to be in the boat rowing in the next 25 years. So there's a fierce sense of urgency of now. We got to talk to minority groups. We got to talk to our family members. We got to talk to the majority. People say, oh, I hate rich people. That is a lie. You hate rich people till you become rich.
Right.
What you hate is a game system. What you hate is a system rigged so you cannot succeed. I get that. Let's fix that and unrig the system. That's what you're doing. You're giving people the light so we can sit down in it.
I want on record, I love rich people, and that's why I love John Hope Bryant. Absolutely love him. I love you. I love you all for hanging out with us. You are listening to Jamal Bryant's podcast. Let's be clear. Go back and listen to this again and stay tuned for the next one. I'll see you next time.